es un gran apoyo para nuevos padres y más aún si están en nuestra situación, que somos extranjeros, que nuestra familia y amigos, como dice Carla, están en otro país, lejos. Entonces sí, viene muy bien el programa para apoyarse tanto emocional y como anímicamente y bueno, en varios aspectos del programa que nos ayuda a seguir adelante con esta nueva aventura.
Don't be afraid to take that step. Like, don't be afraid to get help. Because, you might think that you know what you're doing, but it's always okay to have extra support, and don't do it alone.
Give it a try. You got nothing to lose. It's free. I'm grateful that I took advantage because it's something that has put me in touch with my child, or closer to my child and her development.
Mendocino County Local Agency Formation Commission to order for our August 7th, 2023 meeting. Can we have roll call, please?
Chair Mulhern.
Here.
Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Present.
Commissioner McGordon.
Here.
Commissioner Horsley.
Here.
Commissioner Cole.
Here.
Commissioner Roden. Alternate Commissioner Winkle.
He's here.
Alternate Commissioner Kristen.
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Hashak. And Commissioner Crane seated for Commissioner Roden.
Thank you very much. I'd like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will move on to public expression. The Commission welcomes participation in the LAFCO meeting. Any person may address the Commission on any subject within the jurisdiction of LAFCO, which is not on the agenda. There is a 3-minute limit and no action will be taken at this meeting. If you are in the room and wish to speak on public expression, please come forward now. And if you are in Zoom and wish to speak on public expression, please use the Zoom feature to raise your hand or press *9 to raise your hand. Seeing no one in the room come forward and seeing no hands raised online, I will move to item number 3, other business, of which there is none. And item number 4, the consent calendar. On the consent calendar, we have the June 5th regular meeting summary, the June claims and financial report ratification, the July claims and financial report, and 4D, contract with Peeling CPA Services for the 22-23 financial audit. Do I have questions, comments, or motion from the commissioners?
Motion to approve.
I have a question.
I have questions.
Okay, if you have a highlighter in your desk and you could just raise it to let me know to keep track of who I've called on, I appreciate that, but I am gonna call on Mr. Ward and then Ms. Horsley.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I wasn't here at the last meeting in June, and I was reading the minutes. And if I could, I know it's a sort of a short meeting today, if we could ad lib a little bit and maybe give me an update on some of the things that happened. For instance, the request for an increase for the clerk administrative assistant and what that administrator assistant's duties are.
Sure. Yes, so that was discussion during the fiscal year 23-24 budget, final budget hearing, and or is it was that for that or for the contract with?
I think it was for your contract.
Oh, the contract
increasing at 30%.
Yes, okay, thank you. So we have hired somebody from the temp agency called The Works, and in that process, essentially the hourly rate has a high markup. The hourly rate has a fairly high markup from the works because they cover all of the employee expenses. So the hourly rate was intended to cover that. We did hire someone at a rate that was slightly less than was anticipated, and so that rate is reflected with a 5% markup on our invoice for August, or for July, sorry.
And who is that person?
Her name is Sasha Thomas.
And she's working part-time now?
She is working part-time in the office 2 mornings a week and helping us with administrative tasks in the office.
Okay. And then further down in the minutes on page 6, it says that there's training of a new analyst, and that's another new person?
Hinman and Associates hired a new analyst in May, and so we've been training her and bringing her up to speed. She's assisting us with the work plan development primarily.
And what's her name?
Her name is Spencer Richard.
Okay. So that one, those 2 part-time employees are through Hinman and Associate?
Correct.
Okay. If I could continue, on the tracking, budget tracking, I had some questions. It's getting more complicated with your budget tracking for me to follow. I mean, it's probably a great document, but trying to follow it through here. For instance, I'm looking at the June one. There was $182.50 that you used, or was expense for the City of Ukiah annexation of city-owned properties. And it doesn't follow with your invoice. Your invoice was for $120. What's the difference? I mean, I know there's that service for overhead and stuff, but it still doesn't compute.
So the rate, $182.50, reflects the staff fees. So so that is at our service rates. And then you'll see the breakout below the contract staff billing subtotal is 120, and that's what the Hinman and Associates invoice reflects. And then there's the 6250 in overhead from the service fees. And then, so the black line at the bottom, the monthly claims total should match our staff
Yeah,
report.
I follow that, but is that overhead, is that income to the commission or is that income to you?
That's income to the commission.
Okay. All right. And then the other question was, I noticed that, and it's been something I brought up several times in the past, because we didn't have a clerk, you're continuing to do the bookkeeping services. Can our new part-time clerk do the bookkeeping at $50 an hour versus $110 an hour?
That may occur in the future. We'll have to see as we bring her up to speed, because she is through a temp agency. I also don't know exactly how long she will be with us, but that may be something we can look at in the future. It's also really beneficial for the executive officer to track those and have one hand in the QuickBooks. We've found that that's been actually a cost savings over the year, to avoid errors and double entries when there's multiple people working in the QuickBooks.
Okay, if I may, last question. On the July budget tracking, you show the treasury amount coming in, the checking amount, what the balances are. How did you come up with the treasury amount when I haven't seen a municipal report for 3 months, 4 months? Did you guess?
It is based on the last Munis report, and we did not do any withdrawals since that time, but it also doesn't include the last 3 months of the fiscal year's interest. So that number will probably change as we get the finalized June Munis report.
I think we just got May's, so they're catching up. They're 1 month behind now, and that's it. So.
Okay.
Yeah, they were 6 or 8 months behind.
Right, right.
A long time ago.
They were for IWPC too, but now they're caught up, so.
I just tried to transfer money from our account in there, and I just guessed on how much we had. Hope that there's enough in there. should be, but,
I think there is, yes.
okay. And then, are our checks, sorry, I had one more.
Okay.
Are our checks that require 2 signatures now, or are we just having them cashed with 1 signature?
We are still requiring the 2 signatures.
Okay, what about transfers from Savings Bank to West America? Is that 2 signatures as well?
Yes, we do it with a check, so that way it's easier for us to track in the
Okay.
system.
Good, I just want to make sure that was happening. Thank you, that's all I had.
Thank you. Ms. Worsley?
Yes, on page 12, the Coastal Region Water Wastewater MSR SOI, 10,326. Where does that money come from?
What does the billing reflect? Is that the question?
Are we billing them for that amount, or does that come out of one of the LAFCO's pots of money?
We have a budget account that is our budget for the work plan each year, and then we bill to that account for preparation of MMSR and sphere updates.
Okay, so they didn't contribute any additional amount for this?
No, those come out of the LAFCO's apportionments every year.
If it's a larger agency, though, sometimes we ask for them to contribute additional funds?
That has been approached in the past. That didn't turn out that we did it that way, but we have had assistance, for example, from the city of Ukiah and the sanitation district last year. We did have staff assistance.
Okay.
So there was no financial transaction, but it was assistance through staff support.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions from the commissioners? If not, I would be looking for a second from Commissioner McGordy's motion. Thank you. Commissioner Gonzalez. I will also open up public comment. Are there any members of the public that wish to comment on the consent calendar in the room? And are there any members on the Zoom that wish to comment on the consent calendar? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner McGordy,
Yes.
Commissioner Crane, Commissioner Horsley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
and Chair Mulhern.
Yes. Thank you.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We have no public hearing items today, and we also do not have any workshop items, so we'll move on to item numbers 7A and 7B. 7A is a proposed contract for general legal counsel services with Marcia Birch Law Office. And Director Hinman, can you just briefly update the commission or remind the commission where we left off with these contracts, please?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Mulhern. Earlier this year, and after a prolonged medical absence, we received notice from Scott Brown that he was scaling back his practice. So to aid in establishing a new contract for legal counsel, we issued a request for proposals, to which we received 8 proposals in response. The list of candidates was narrowed to 5 through a scoring and review process conducted by the executive committee as well as the full commission. And then those 5 firms were then interviewed by the commission in closed session during our June 5th meeting. After interviews and deliberations, the commission selected Marcia Birch Law Office as general counsel and directed staff to negotiate a contract for commission consideration. Under Scott Brown's contract, Marcia has served as our general counsel for the past year and a half, and during that time, she's gained a solid understanding of the county's issues and the agencies here, and provided excellent support to staff and the commission in carrying out its priorities and duties. Marcia provided 2 options for compensation in her proposal, a retainer of $1,000 per month, which would cover an average of 4.5 hours with a quarterly true-up, or to do daily billing at cost at the rate of $225 per hour. The commission expressed preference for the hourly billing, and that is what is reflected in the proposed contract, which starts on page 27 of your agenda packet. Staff, Treasurer Ward, and Ms. Birch have reviewed the presented contract and recommend approval of the contract for general legal counsel services and authorizing signature by the chair. I will also note that the commission did directed staff to work with Sloan Sakai, Jung, and Wong to, for special counsel, and that is our next item, which we can discuss then.
Thank you. I'd like to open the floor for any commissioner questions, and I see it pins up from Ward and Gonzalez. Okay, just Ward.
Thank you. Is the contract going to be approved today? That'd be effective date today, or is it backdated July 1st, or
It would be, we have it marked effective today.
today? Okay. So I think I've done it in the past, but I've been pretty busy here lately on other things, but it'd be really nice to know through June 30th what the hours spent on the last 12 months have been versus her new hourly rate, to see how it would have come out. Because for May, there was 0.22 hours that was expended to us, and then 0 for June, and I assumed 0 for July, because we didn't meet in July. But how that translates into the cost per hour, to see how it was, because we used to do that in the past to see if the $900 per month that we were paying equalized a pretty reasonable hourly rate. So I'd like to see that if we could, maybe the next meeting, to see how that came out. Because from here on out, we're going to be paying by the hour, correct?
Correct.
So I just wanted to compare that to what we were charged in the past, if we could. Otherwise, I think it's, I reviewed the agreement, it looks good, and I think it'll work. Although I was the one that wanted the $900 per month, but I wasn't here to argue it, so.
Commissioner McGorty. Thank you. I have a second. Are there any public comments in the room on item 7A? And are there any public comments on Zoom on item 7A? This is, if you want to raise your hand using the Zoom feature or press *9, it will raise your hand if you're calling in by phone. Seeing no hands raised, roll call, please.
Commissioner McGorty?
Yes.
Commissioner Crane?
Aye.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Commissioner Horsley?
Yes.
Commissioner Cole?
Yes.
And Chair Mulhern.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. So we will move on to item 7B, a proposed contract for on-call special legal counsel services with Sloan, Sakai, Yang, and Wong, LLP. And again, Director Hinman, if you could just briefly update the commissioners on how we got here.
Thank you. In considering the candidates for legal counsel, the commission also decided to select Deanne Gillick with Sloan, Sakai, Jung, and Wong as special counsel. It's a relatively common practice of LAFCO statewide to retain counsel, special counsel for complex projects, backup, and support to general counsel should there be conflicts of interest or availability issues, and also to provide ready access to additional legal support on special topics or circumstances. Sloan, Sakai, Jung, and Wong is a firm of 25 attorneys with offices in Sacramento and Emeryville. Deanne Gillick would be the primary attorney assigned to Mendocino LAFCO with a billing rate of $295 per hour. Again, staff, Treasurer Ward, and Sloan, Sakai, Jung, and Wong have reviewed the presented contract and recommend approval of the contract for on-call special legal counsel services and authorized signature by the chair.
Commissioner Horsley.
First of all, I want to thank you for putting all this together, and it looks very good, and it's exactly what we wanted, so thank you very much. And I hope Marcia will avail herself of this legal firm who has a lot of background in LAFCO issues when the need arises, of course, and would encourage her to do so. I see you, Marcia, up there. So, and so it looks like a really good fit. I think it was a good decision, so thank you.
Commissioner McGorty.
I move the recommended action.
Second. It was a tie, so we'll go with Cole. We'll go with Cole. Are there any members of the public that wish to come forward and comment on this item? Seeing none, are there any members online that wish to comment on this item? Please
I-
go ahead.
I have a question. What is the decision-making process to bring these folks into working for us? Is it the commission? Is it Ms. Hinman? Is it Marcia Birch? How does that work? I'm just out of curiosity.
Thank you for the question. It was a very detailed process. We did an RFP. The executive committee looked
Oh,
at
I'm
the
sorry.
applicant.
That's not what I was asking. Just moving forward, when does this firm get called into play, and who makes the decision?
Oh, I see what you're asking. Okay. I think that probably Director Hinman can best answer that, and maybe if Marcia wants to weigh in as well. So the question is, when will you use alternate legal counsel?
Sure, thank you. That is an excellent question. Generally, we will be working directly with Marcia for most of our needs. If an issue arises where we need additional support, at that time we would contact Deanne to provide that support, and we would make that decision in concert with discussing it with Marcia. And then I think that it would be good to run that past the chair, just as an FYI, because it does impact the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner McGourty,
Yes.
Commissioner Crane, Commissioner Horsley,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
and Chair Mulhern.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will move on to item 8A, work plan, current and future proposals. Director Hinman?
Thank you. We'll start with the applications. A tax share agreement has been adopted by both the Ukiah City Council and the Board of Supervisors for the city's proposed annexation of city-owned properties. The required certificate of filing was sent to the city on June 18th, and the proposal has been scheduled for the Commission's consideration on September 11th. The CKH has a provision for the Commission to consider annexation of city-owned properties without a public hearing and subsequent protest hearing. So agencies were provided the opportunity to request a public hearing, and no such requests were received. So we will be proceeding with the streamlined process, so it will be scheduled as an item for discussion and action. All other applications on file are pending tax share agreements. As a reminder, the tax share negotiations are a process conducted by the county assessor, auditor, and the county executive office and board of supervisors. Agreements must be adopted by resolution by both the county and the applicant agency before LAFCO may proceed with scheduling the proposed proposal for public hearing. Are there any questions on the application section before I move on to the work plan?
Commissioner Ward?
Thank you. Could you repeat that with the approval, or the tax share agreement was approved by the city and the county?
It was, yes. So we have a full application, and we're ready to move forward with the consideration.
Does that include the other one, the Western Hills?
No, that's a separate application, and that one is still incomplete.
So, how can you describe what the tax sharing agreement was? How it was developed?
It is a process that is initiated by the assessor's office, who does evaluation of the properties and sends that to the auditor's office, who then puts together the breakdown of tax share to all of these special districts and agencies.
Was it a percentage?
Well, the result was an agreement for a zero transfer of taxes, because these are city-owned properties.
Okay. So that's why it was a a little easier,
Correct.
but the other ones are going to be more complicated.
They will likely be more complicated.
And when will the county get on this and get it done? I've been waiting, I'm getting old.
That is a great question. I think you're going to make it if you can just hang in there a little bit longer.
I think that was 3 months
We
ago
are-
you said that.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. Yes, we meet monthly and sometimes twice a month with the city managers and the county board of supervisors ad hoc to try to move forward this tax sharing agreement.
It sure make our job a lot easier when we're trying to get these annexations done
Yes,
and whatnot, so please, please, please.
thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move on to the work plan. So that update is on page 42 of your agenda packet.
Sorry, Uma, we do have a question online, I believe, for that
Oh.
item.
Yeah, I was just curious as to, does the process always start with the assessor's office, or does it sometimes the applicant propose a tax sharing agreement? Just out of curiosity, could maybe somebody elucidate on that?
Sure. The tax share process is laid out in the Revenue and Tax Code, Section 99. So there is a specific process that is followed.
So it's a fixed process. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, I'll move on to the work plan. So that is on page 42 of your agenda packet. So staff is continuing to conduct research and develop information requests for the 7 coastal water and wastewater districts that have been identified for this year's work plan. Additionally, we've been conducting outreach and research and holding meetings with county and state agencies to help develop the regional picture of water supply and demand on the coast. Next month, we will be presenting a plan and a schedule of tasks for implementation of the work plan. So we'll provide a schedule for how we intend to roll out the process for completing that work plan this year. And are there any questions on the work plan?
I do have a couple of questions. I'll start with Commissioner McGorty and then move to Commissioner Horsley.
I'm very interested how you gather your information, who you're talking to, and how do we track it as board members?
Sure. We have been talking, we've held meetings with the Mendocino County Water Agency staff. We've held meetings with the State Water Board, particularly about how they conduct or how they decide whether to force or mandate consolidations between the smaller water agencies and most primarily the private water companies are what we're concerned with. As part of this work plan, we're trying to wrap in as many of the mutual water companies as we can in anticipation of that, the State Water Board possibly mandating consolidations.
So
Excuse me.
that's interesting. So what's the reaction from the mutuals about being consolidated?
We have, excuse me, we haven't contacted the mutual water companies directly yet. They do not fall under the jurisdiction of LAFCO. So where we do have the ability to reach out to them and request information, we will not be doing full municipal service reviews on them. We will, of course, reach out to them and include them in the process and include what information they provide. But mostly what we want to have is a big picture of the region's water supply and how the agencies coordinate for meeting the demands. And so then we will also be including discussion from the State Water Board about what their thresholds are for when they consider doing mandated consolidations. And also, are there problem areas on the coast that we should be aware of? And that's to keep the commission informed, but also to kind of take that proactive step so that we're ready should that happen in the future.
I'm not even sure how they are regulated. So does Mendocino County Environmental Health certify their practices for chlorination or other disinfection?
They, I believe it's environmental health and also the Department of Public Health through the state.
Mhm.
And the Department of Drinking Water through the State Water Board.
Okay, because I know that some of the mutual companies are as simple as, a dozen hookups to a tank and a feeble well, and the work's kind of volunteer, and if nobody's there to fix stuff, they really have a problem. And it's something to think about if you're going to purchase a home on the coast, is where's your water coming from, because a lot of it's really iffy, and it's kind of my long-term desire as a supervisor to see a comprehensive water program for both inland and the coast to ensure that we have ample water for health and human safety.
It did become very apparent during the emergency situation we had a couple of years ago with the drought, or was it last year? And it came to our attention, we hadn't quite realized the extent of the coordination that goes on between the agencies and on the coast to support each other during those during low water years. So that's something we definitely want to capture in the work plan this year. And then we did learn that Lake County, the State Water Board did a mandated consolidation of a number of mutual water companies and private water companies in Lake County 5 or 6 years ago. So we're just trying to prepare for that, should that happen, and that's part of our regional picture.
No, I've made the comment before, it's easier to get water from Lake Shasta to San Diego than it is from Fort Bragg to Mendocino. And we really have not had an investment in the North Coast by the state for water infrastructure. When you look at Southern California and you think of the amazing amount of water that goes down there, have not participated as a region, and I think some of it is because people are reluctant to have infrastructure to control growth. But as with climate change very apparent to us, I think it's something that Mendocino County has to look at and take very seriously, because shallow wells don't make it when you have 3 years of low rainfall.
Thank you. Commissioner Horsley and then Commissioner Ward.
I just wanted to confirm a previous discussion we had that these processes will probably be a little more simple than like the city of Ukiah, the sanitation district, some others, because of the size of the agencies. Do you still agree that that would be the case?
I think for some of the agencies it will be simpler, and sometimes these really small agencies it can be more difficult in obtaining the information and also addressing some of the issues. Just in researching the files, there's been some of these districts have been fairly unresponsive, not just to LAFCO requests for information, but to the public as well. And so some of it will require some, some pretty strong determinations, I'm guessing, by the commission, and we'll be digging into that.
All right, that's I kind of wanted to get a feel for it for the future. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Ward.
Thank you. I need some clarification. Looking at the July work plan schedule and cost tracking, and the coastal water district was estimated cost is $20,000, and we expended almost $18,000. Then you look at the August one, and it jumps to $100,000. So why didn't we originally put is that because of the previous budget?
The $20,000 was the previous fiscal year budget for that. Since then, we have added agencies. So then the $100,000 reflects the budget that was adopted for this fiscal year.
So it wasn't our intent then that we were going to do the coastal water districts with only $20,000. Then it was always going to be $100,000.
We reassessed and added agencies to the work plan for the coastal districts this year and bumped up the budget so that we would have the ability to outsource if that was necessary. It may be that we don't use the whole budget, and then we can come back to the commission with recommendations for additional agencies this year if there is time, if there is capacity and budget. But we will keep, we're going to flesh that out a little bit and provide a more comprehensive report and schedule at the next commission meeting for the work
Do
plan
you
for this year.
anticipate outside sources to help on this?
With the new analyst that we have on, it may not be necessary. So we're kind of assessing that, but at this time, it's not looking like it.
So it looks like you've expended 1/4 of the 100,000 so far. What would, I mean, looking at your work plan tracking status here, a lot of it's still research and development. How do you, when do you think you're going to have this completed, based on your analysis so far?
We have, it's a hard question to answer. That's what we'll be developing as part of our presentation to the commission for the next month. We've done a lot of background research and have started administrative drafts of all of the agencies except for the one that is, this will be a first round MSR sphere update or sphere study for the Mendocino County Waterworks District Number 2. So we have not started that one, but the others have all been initiated. And our process, I was planning to go into more detail next month, but generally our process is to work through what was done for the last MSR. They were very brief MSRs that were done in 2012, 2014, pretty much just to check the box and make sure that we had a MSR and sphere per the CKH. So this year, we're hoping to go into a lot more depth and provide the kind of analysis for really solid determinations for moving forward.
Well, I recall reading those back then, and they were pretty thick, even though they weren't, you say they were a checkbox. So now if we're going MTEP, we're going to be looking at 4 inches of information. Is the Mendocino County Waterworks, is that a private company?
It is a special district.
How did we miss it?
That's a good question. I think it was, it looks like that it was a dependent district with the county. And then a number of years ago, they did go to an elected board, and at that time became a special district. I don't know, it was not on our radar. We kind of discovered it after we received some public inquiries, and we started to dig into it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McGorty.
I don't know how long this is going to take you to finish, but you will have some new resources with UC Cooperative Extension hiring a hydrology and climate change specialist who will start working in January. So that'll be in-house, no cost to you, and they'll be able to help with, well, she's a hydrogeologist by training, but knows a lot about surface water as well. So keep that in mind if you're working on this after January.
Thank you.
So if you have technical questions, there's someone who can assist.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you. Seeing no additional questions from the commissioners and seeing no questions online, I'd like to go ahead and move on, and I'll call for public comment again after all of the reports have been given.
I don't have anything further for 8A.
Okay. So 8B is correspondence?
Nothing to report for correspondence.
Okay, and an update, 8C, the CALAFCO Business and Legislative Report.
Yes, thank you. The nomination period is open for the CALAFCO Board of Directors. The deadline for nominations is September 18th. The Northern Region will have an opening for a county and a special district member. So far, Bill Connolly from Butte-LAFCO, who is the incumbent, has been nominated for the county seat, and his nomination with candidate resume has been included in your agenda packet on page 55. He served on CALAFCO for 10 years, I believe. Also, Nevada LAFCO has announced they will be nominating Commissioner Ricky Heck, who's a special district member with Nevada Irrigation District. This is an informational item as well as an opportunity to nominate a county or special district commissioner for the CALAFCO board. During our September meeting, the commission will select one of the commissioners attending the conference as a voting delegate. So we'll have an opportunity in September to discuss the nominees and provide feedback to that delegate. I guess a question is to the commission if anyone wishes to be nominated for either the county or special district seat on CALAFCO.
Commissioner Ward,
Did are
you
we-
volunteering?
No, not a special district or county. I don't think they have a public one, do they? They do?
They do.
Well, I'm not interested. Did Mari sign up?
She did not. She decided that it was too much at that time.
Okay. I thought I talked her into it.
Okay, thank you for the update.
Sure. So the next CALAFCO piece is the conference program, which is included in your packet starting on page 58. The annual conference will be held in Monterey this year, October 18th to 20. It's a really great opportunity to learn about the issues facing LAFCOs across the state and network with different folks. We did reach out to the commission when the program was first announced, and we received interest from Commissioner Roden and Commissioner Cole, and also tentative from Commissioner Winkle and Kristen. So it would be great to hear from the commissioners and get feedback on who would actually like to attend and commit to that so that we can do the early registration and get a little cost break. We have budget for up to 4 commissioners plus the executive officer to attend.
Okay, well, it seems like you listed 4 names, so do you want to have that conversation now, or should they just follow up with you directly after the meeting if they?
Is there anyone else who's interested? I mean, I think that would be a discussion.
Okay. Is there any?
piece. Okay. Okay,
So keep me in mind if somebody backs out.
okay. Good. All right, I guess
Okay.
that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, perhaps if you could just follow up with folks' calendars, so like you said, you can get the early bird registration and get things organized. And then we'll know if there's only 3, and then we could send Commissioner Gonzalez.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the last item was just that the CALAFCO omnibus bill was signed by the governor, so that has passed into legislation. And that's it.
Thank you. So we'll move on to 8D, the Executive Officer's Report.
Thank you. The alternate public member term, which is currently held by Commissioner Winkle, is up at the end of the year, so we will begin the recruitment process for that seat in September. Also, in our work program for this year, we identified developing a streamlined review process for to determine the level of review necessary for sphere updates and to meet the CKH requirements. So we have been working on developing that process, and we'll be bringing that template to the commission in the coming months. I am happy to report that we do have administrative support in the office. So she is there on Mondays and Wednesdays from 9 to 1 at this time. Her focus will be on providing office support and developing organizational efficiencies with us. At each of your seats are 2 publications. So the Special Districts Association provides these publications monthly, so those are yours to take home if you wish. And then just finally, as a reminder, our next regular meeting of the commission will be held on the 2nd Monday, which is September 11th, and that's because of the Labor Day holiday. And I don't have anything else unless there's questions.
Thank you for that reminder. Are there any questions for the director? I'm not seeing any. Okay, we'll move on to commissioner reports. Item 8. Are there any commissioners that have anything that they wish to report? Commissioner McGorty.
This is very brief, but the discussions for consolidation of the water districts and companies serving the Ukiah Valley area are ongoing and seem to be making progress. I can't disclose much because things are still sensitive and quiet. And similarly with the Russian River Water Forum, to address the transfer of an entity that might be able to move water from the Eel River to the Russian River is also ongoing, both kind of public and private, and progress is being made. So we hope to come up with at least some sort of proposal that PG&E can live with for a local entity in the Russian River basin to be able to continue the water transfers. That's of significance to this group because it'll eventually make its way to us.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward.
Yeah, I'd like to, maybe Candace or Glenn can ask, what's up with Lake Mendocino? Why is it still so high?
There's a lot of water in it.
Yeah, I know. It's always a drought. I mean, it was always empty, and now it's all up, here in August, and it's.
Well, the difference is the Corps' handling of it with FARO, which means they've gone above, I think isn't it like 10,000 acre feet extra water? And they tested it out 4 years ago. It worked well. And this year, because of all the inflow, they allowed it to go almost. They never quite made the top of the FARO curve, but they made it almost to the top. And so there was 10,000 extra acre feet in there, and it just hasn't been used. If you see the lines, if you go on the Inland Water and Power Commission website, there's water storage graphs. And now you see it tracking, it's going down, and it's very close to what it was. I think it was 2017 or something that had a lot of water also. So it's slowly going down, but that extra water being held behind the dam makes a big difference.
Well, the road to Boucher campgrounds are still underwater.
Yeah.
And I have dumpsters over there I can't get to.
Can you float them out?
Plus, we're losing revenue, because the campgrounds aren't open.
It's going down really quickly now. It's like going like this. So, but right, the summer's almost over and no
amazing.
campgrounds.
I mean, why didn't we do this a few years ago?
Yeah.
Anyway, I was just curious because
So
it is
that-
August and we've got.
If I can add just a little bit to it, so the FARO is, I forget exactly what the acronym means, but basically it's done, in the olden days, everything had a calendar, so when they set the flood control function up for the dam in 1957, it was a calendar, you just automatically dump water when it got to be March 15th or something. 15th, yeah. So now they're saying, no, don't dump it unless we really see a big storm coming, and so that's what's changed. And then the demand for water was way down too, because we started irrigating really, really late this year because there was so much water in the ground from the high rainfall. So we didn't really start doing a lot of active irrigation until the middle of June.
But the people beyond the dam, don't they need more, couldn't they use more water if we let more water out?
Well, Lake Sonoma is pretty full too, so they, basically the Sonoma water is in good shape. They tend to want to drain Lake Mendocino first, but overall, a cooler summer, lower evapotranspiration demands, and means less irrigation for landscape. So it's just been a great year for water. I hope this keeps happening.
Good.
You asked a question, why didn't they do this 50 years ago?
Or even 5 years ago. 10
Well,
years ago.
they did do it 5 years ago. That's when they've been working on it for 10 years. But it's because of the weather pattern changes. Before that, it pretty much worked the way it was according to the manual, which was approved by Congress. So you can't just change it easily. It's very difficult to change it. So with FARO, it allowed for this additional. They had to test the dam. They kept increasing the amount of water behind it, and it was stable. It's very stable, they found. So that's why they were able to finally say, yes, we can do this. The interesting thing is we're the first one in the country to use FARO, and now they're going to use it at multiple other dams.
I'd just like to see the recreation come back to the lake. There just isn't much recreation.
I know.
anymore.
Well, I can do a brief update on that, and then we're going to get to Commissioner Cole. So the Army Corps is continuing to work on a project to repair the sewer treatment plant after the fires in Calpella. So the north end of the lake campgrounds should be opening soon. And as you mentioned, as soon as the road to Bechet is no longer flooded, they have 100+ campgrounds over there that they're going to be ready to open. They're just waiting for the next week or two until the water recedes enough to open it up. So they're right on top of it, but I can assure you that the lake is being dutifully used by paddleboarders and jet skiers and boats almost every day of the
Yeah,
week.
but the
So
campers bring in a lot of money, too.
$16 million a year. Yep. Thank
Okay.
you. Commissioner Cole.
Yes, I just wanted to mention that the cemetery special districts, I know we're not on the upper agenda, but we have completed all our budgets, and I've been checking in with Covelo, some of the smaller ones, and of course, I'm representing Hopland. Our budgets are under distress. Our boards are not able to have funding. We're not selling plots. We're not, the structure, the template for cemeteries isn't working any longer for the small rural cemeteries. And after the drought and then now the big storm that came through, at least I can speak for the Hopland Cemetery, we now have 2 or 3 additional trees to come down, and our contractor costs are skyrocketing. And so our entire budget for the year is now already gone. It will be gone by the end of August. And this is because maintenance, we have insurance, we hold that, we do an audit, we have expenses throughout the year. And so I think the cemetery districts are really under duress. The board members really do want to maintain these places, but as far as Hopland's concerned, I can speak to that. We're considering either finding some way to have perhaps Mendo Parks or someone actually converting to a park because it is a public place. So we have posted signage, warning signs outside our cemeteries because we have trees that are threatening the public. And so that's our priority. And so I think that needs to be addressed at some point by the commission would be great because it's something we care about a lot. So
I have a question for you.
Commissioner Ward.
Does cremation hurt your budget, too?
it certainly does. We have very few full body burials, and actually environmentally, it's actually better that we don't. At rural cemeteries, we don't use vaults, we don't use all the liners, that kind of thing, so that also is better for the environment. But a full plot burial is $1,200 plus the gravesman, and our cremations are $300. And those are, so we're around $1,500 a year is all that's coming in.
That's going to affect all the cemeteries.
All of them. And I know the Russian River, Dana over there, they've had a lot of trees come down, but she also has a full staff. And we created an inter-cemetery agreement with Russian River in order to maintain our insurance. So we don't get paid for the burials at all because we have no employees, and I think a lot of people don't. And so we're actually using their employees when we do have a burial. And so our people are also paying Russian River, not Hopland Cemetery is not gaining that income as well. So it's something to be addressed in the MSRs. If we could have some kind of, at some point this year, have some kind of short review and some process going forward, because we are at the point, the families that do have burials there do visit, do come, but the complaint level is rising because we can't maintain the property. And we're at the point where the board, the next meeting, we're considering locking the gates just for public safety with the trees. So I wanted to bring that up.
Thank you. Commissioner McGorty and Commissioner Ward?
So, Commissioner Cole, have you talked to the Hopland Valley MAC about, Hopland MAC about this?
I have. I bring it up almost every meeting when I am there. They do, what was a real help, have a volunteer group that started up. They did a huge cleanup for us. The board does hold cleanups through the year, but that was a huge help. But then that was a one-shot deal. Mm-hmm. And then almost immediately the next month, we had 2 trees literally split in half. And so we can't have people walking around those trees. So HMAC is aware of that.
Okay. My parents are buried in a rural cemetery down in Paso Robles, and there's a work day once a year where the community is very good about coming out and cleaning up, which I've participated in many times. And sort of the same situation, just no money. And it's a pioneer cemetery with people buried back into the 1860s. So it also is sort of an archaeological landmark and worth preserving.
Well, that's the thing. I think I did approach the Mendocino Historical Society about they could help, but they were concerned with, obviously, they have a new building, they're doing a lot of things. But we're basically reaching out to whoever could help us at least maintain it so that people can visit the history. And that's, like, especially Hopland, we're landlocked by Campo Vita and Rossetti's. We can't expand. And we don't really want to. I don't think we want to expand the cemetery just because the culture is moving away from that.
Maybe, Director Hinman, can you agendize just maybe a discussion about cemeteries? I understand that that's not in our current work plan, but maybe if the board can have an update, an agendized item, we could have a better opportunity to discuss what a future work plan might look like. Commissioner Ward?
I think it'd be important, we did an MSR on the districts. Have you read it?
Yeah, it's so out of date, though.
Yeah,
it was
I don't
it was
recall
over 6 years ago.
I don't recall talking about trees, but I know we were talking about, like Westport, we couldn't even find a board, that even went over it.
That's the
So
other thing.
we really had some issues. I think we need to bring back maybe that MSR and have us review it, and it'll give us an idea what we're talking about. But I think cemeteries are pretty much on their way out with this cremation thing.
Absolutely.
I don't know how we're going to fund those kinds of things. The families are now, the newer families are just doing cremations, so they're not coming back in to do cleanups and things like Glenn just mentioned. So it is a problem, but I don't know what the answer is.
Right, we were considering it, that's why we were thinking of Mendo Parks or some other, because we basically are a park. People come and it's beautiful and they read about history, and so that might be a move that has to happen. I don't know how much longer there'll be a special district for Hopland Cemetery at this point.
Thank you. So we'll work to agendize an item that will have the previous MSR, and the county has an emergency declaration for tree mortality because it's a countywide issue, not just in cemeteries. So maybe we can include that as well. Commissioner Christian.
So moving away from this grave subject, might be interested in an update on the water system for Boonville. That project is moving slowly, but right now they're working through an issue with, there's a water system for around the airport, I guess called Meadow Estates. And so they're trying to work out a deal with them and understand the terms by which they might be folded into this water system that they're planning for Boonville. And that will allow the engineers to come up with a rate estimate, and then it'll go to a vote, and hopefully we'll finalize that process. It'll get accepted, and then they would move from the planning phase into a build-out phase. It's a very slow-moving process. Same with the wastewater system. There was a snag on finding a property where they could actually install the system, and now the engineers are digging around to see if things perk. And but anyway, if you're interested, eventually these will become, if approved, they'll come in before LAFCO for powers for sanitation and water for this AVCSD. Anyway, that's all I.
Thank you for that update. Commissioner McGorty?
Just a comment, I'm very supportive because I've followed this project and I know that there's a real problem with Boonville having septic tanks close to wells, and it's been going on since the 1950s, and I'd love to see it resolved. So there could be at least a possibility of a little increase in housing and commercial development because I think the valley needs it.
Okay, thank you very much. And seeing no additional pens raised, I would just check in with our audience to see if they have any questions or comments on any of the information or report items 8A through 8F. And seeing none, I will check on Zoom for any hands raised. Seeing none, I move adjournment. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. 9/11.
Wilma, do we have any
Just turn it-
executive committee things coming up?